All right, thank you for coming back to part 4 with Adam Cook from South Beach. Sun and fun down there. We're broadcasting live, a balmy 96 degrees in Detroit today with about 370,000% humidity. This is Detroit Buy, Hold, Invest podcast. I'm your host, David Rabior. You can reach me at 313-451-0448. Check me out on my website, www.detroitbuyholdinvest.com, or you can check me out on any social media format that I participate in, primarily Facebook, Instagram, and wherever else you might catch me. Today, Adam, we're coming back and we're talking about crypto. We've been talking about the thises and the that's and, the whole idea of it and why it's good and how it protects people to actually have things they own and that people can't take from them. But what I really want you to get into is I'm a guy who knows nothing about crypto. You've shared with me the wisdom about what it is. And I say, you know what, Adam, I got, $100,000 or I got $5,000. I want to put into crypto because I believe in what you're saying. How in the hell do I do it? How do I get started? And how do I purchase it? Where do I hold it? Take a step-by-step through how that goes down.
Yeah, so it's really based on, your degree or how deeply you want to get into it. Someone like yourself and myself, we're the type that really wants to self-custody and hold our own coins, which is a degree of separation from just buying it on an exchange or one of the payment apps. So
yeah, there's a Coinbase or something like that.
Yeah, there's a ton. I mean, you can even, if you have a broker account with, you can buy ETF Bitcoin.
Okay.
It's important to understand whether it's PayPal or Cash App or Coinbase or the ETF that isn't real Bitcoin. It's like what we were talking about with the banks. It's like it's a paper receipt. It's like it's an IOU.
Yeah, it's like buying gold on the stock market.
Exactly. It's like, cool, but you get access. What that happens when you do that is you get access to the price movements. So if that's like your primary concern and like what we were talking about, if you want to buy low and sell high, good for you. You're going to take a tax hit, but you can do that on all those exchanges and all the platforms. And it's just like anything else. I mean, most people, I think you can even buy it on Venmo now. So most people have all of those different accounts.
Right. I don't know if I'd be comfortable buying Bitcoin on Cash App and Venmo, but
I wouldn't. But people do it, and people can do it.
Got to be some fees associated with that.
Yeah, I think they're relatively competitive. Coinbase is one of the ones I use for larger purchases, and they are expensive. I'll be honest, and that's I use them for a variety of reasons. It's the first one I used a while ago. I don't particularly like them. I don't particularly recommend them, but they are the only publicly listed company that is doing that. So there is some insurance involved. I believe the FDIC. So is it the FDIC? I'm not sure, but there is some insurance involved where the regulatory system will make you somewhat whole if something goes awry. But again, it's paper Bitcoin. It's not real Bitcoin. So you can buy it and you can hold it on any of those instruments. You can, on something like Coinbase, you can send the Bitcoin to other places, which I'm not, similar to like having your own in self-custody. But I'm not familiar how the availability on some of those other platforms. We talked about dollar cost averaging before. So you can do that on Coinbase, but Coinbase, I think, charges like maybe 3% a transaction. So that's not cheap.
No.
I use a platform called Swan, and Swan is just specific for Bitcoin only. It's only Bitcoin. There's no shitcoins. There's no anything else on there. And it's specific for people like myself, anyone, and institutions who want to buy a lot of Bitcoin. And specifically, I use it for the dollar cost average. So I set it up and I automatically say, hey, I want to buy 100 Bitcoin every single day forever. And it just, it turns on and it does that. And then every single month or when I reach a certain point, it automatically sends the Bitcoin that I've accumulated on that platform because, again, it's paper Bitcoin. It's not real Bitcoin. but at a certain point it triggers and then it will send real Bitcoin to my self custody. So that's
Gotcha.
like the kind of like the holy grail for um, you know, property. I would say property in general. Uh, Maybe the ultimate one is what we talked about, where you memorize that seed phrase in your mind. You don't have anything written down. It's not on your computer or anything like that. But a hard wallet, again, is something that interacts with the Bitcoin network. You know, you plug it into your computer. It's kind of like a USB, stick. So if it's not plugged in, no one can access it. When you plug it in, you have a unique code that generates it. You authorize it to interact with the Bitcoin network. So if you don't have that USB and it's not plugged in, then no one can touch it.
Yes.
That's like the physical realm from the digital realm. It prevents anyone from accessing it or using it. And there's a variety of different products out there. I've used a few. Bitcoin is still new. It's about 15 years old, and all these products are really just exploding. It's kind of like the internet in the late 90s. It's really kind of becoming a thing. So I don't know. There's probably over a dozen or two different products. The one that I use personally is Trezor, Trezor. Again, that's the first one I used. It's the one I feel most comfortable with. I enjoy using it. I like the company. And when you do that, again, that's the different layer of security. So it comes, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's risk involved with everything. So if it's on an ETF on the stock exchange, you have a broker, which is an intermediary from your bank, which is an intermediary between you. So there's like 2 or 3 extra layers between you and the money.
Right. They're charging you a commission on everything they do.
Yeah. On Coinbase, it's, it's one layer. It's on Coinbase versus the distinction of sending it to your hard wallet. But again, there's an intermediary there. You basically need all of these people. You need permission to access, to use their systems, and then to send it to and from. And then again,
once you pull your money out of like something like Coinbase, like boom, 1099.
Yeah. I mean, it's selling. If you sell, then yes. Sending it is not a taxable event.
Okay.
But so once so that hard wallet and then memorizing that key phrase is really like the ultimate form of ownership and property, unlike ever before.
So Adam, what specific places does one go to create this digital wallet?
So go to Trezor. I think the website's trezor.io. Double check and triple check everything you do, because there's always scams with everything. But trezor.io is the hard wallet that I use. There's a couple of different models. So, maybe buy a couple and see which one you like the best.
Gotcha. What's the cost of something like that?
Again, depends on the model, but it's probably anywhere between 80 and $150.
Okay.
Depending on what model it is.
Like a flat rate, and then do you pay like a monthly charge for it or anything? No. Okay.
Nope. Swan is, Coinbase, I mentioned their DCA is 3% a transaction. Swan is 1% a transaction. So it's still a fee, but it's a lot more feasible than Coinbase or any of the other ones I've found. I know there are different products out there, but again, these are the ones I use and I feel comfortable with.
Gotcha.
And again, with Swan, it's like I set it, I forget it. I look at it maybe once a quarter to see what's going on.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to have someone like, if you're saying, well, you could do this and well, you could do that. I'd rather have you say like, this is what I use and it works for me, because I don't want anybody listening to my show to go out and be like, well, maybe Adam's not right. There's like 10 other places I could do it. And then they end up in some freaking Indian, call center scam or something.
Yeah. I'll tell you exactly what I do. I'm not promoting any of these products. However, I do have a reference link for Swan. So,
got it. And shameless pop, but it doesn't matter. Listen, Adam's doing this actively, and he's a guy I've done business with a long time. So if this is what he's using and he stands behind it, then it is what it is. And I give people the go ahead to believe in what he's saying right now, because he has no reason to direct you any other than what he believes strongly in. in the products that he services, utilizes, and endorses privately without being paid.
Yeah. So again, Bitcoin, I treat it, it's my savings account. I buy it forever. I buy it every single day. I don't touch it. I use it. Maybe I'll use it for a rainy day. Maybe in 10 years I'll use it. Most likely I'll borrow from it. But currently the only two products I use right now is Coinbase, which sparingly, but it's a little bit faster. The user experience is a little bit easier to get used to.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It has an app, so you can use it on your phone, which is nice.
Yep.
And then again, Swan, and it's really simple. I mean, it's just like any other banking intermediary. You set up your banking information, you send them the documents that they need to set you up, and then you're good to go. And one of the reasons I like Swan and DCA and the hard wallet is, like I said, like maybe I check it once a quarter. I don't want to have to think about stuff. I don't want to have to worry about investing. I don't want to have to worry about what Elon Musk said or what the price of Nvidia is. I don't care or want to care or think about those things. I just put it in. I set up Swan. There's a step-by-step guide on all of these platforms. I have my own step-by-step guide. So if anyone reaches out, I can help them with that and walk them through it, hold their hand, make you feel comfortable, especially when you're using a hard wallet for the first time. It's a little spooky because for the first time in most of our lives, it's like, there's finality in what we're doing. Like, oh, the bank's not going to return my money if I send it to the wrong place, which sometimes they do. But if you screw up on your hard wallet, you are completely responsible for it.
Right.
So there's a degree of responsibility and, maybe a little bit of, fear when you're first doing it because it's new, it's different. But once you get the hang of like a hard wallet and using it peer to peer, and on one of our previous episodes, we talked about borrowing against our Bitcoin and the fact that, if you use some of these platforms, you can literally execute a loan within the matter of minutes without anyone's permission. Once you that's a degree of understanding that you don't get until you actually do it yourself. And it's really kind of mind blowing and it's fun to play with. But some people don't want to worry about that. Some people want it in their bank account or in their Coinbase account so that they can look at it and see the price every day.
Yeah, and you wonder, like, say you buy a Bitcoin, a full Bitcoin at 50 grand, right? And then 3 days later, it goes to 80 grand, let's just say, fictitiously, in the perfect world, right? And then now you've got X amount of thousands of dollars in, like, what you would say gains. And then if you go to withdraw this money, like, and take it in cash, then you're like now receiving income. So like you have to be taxed. But like if you utilized your Bitcoin to receive lending, right, then now you're avoiding this tax implication in a way, correct?
Yeah. So the SEC, I think, technically designates or, terms Bitcoin as a commodity. All the 2,538 other regulatory agencies have different definitions, but essentially the US government describes Bitcoin as property. So you can kind of, there's a lot of similarities between Bitcoin and real estate property, real ownership is one of them. I argue that Bitcoin is more pure form of property than real estate, despite its lack of physical nature. But in terms of accounting and taxing, it's treated the same. So, I'm not making income on my Bitcoin, but if I lent it out and got interest on that, then that would be taxed like interest, just like renting out your property.
Right.
Sell your property, depending on the time frame it's in, it's either going to be taxed as income or capital gains. And then, just like you said, if you're borrowing against it, which is ultimately my goal, I don't want to sell it. It's a tax-free, there's no tax implications to that. So just like with your house, if you're into it to 100 grand and then 5 years later you refi and you pull out 150 grand, you basically got 50 grand tax-free and all of your investment back. So that's one of the cool things. And something really important that the traders don't think about, if you're trading Bitcoin on a regular basis and your tax bracket is 30%, you got to be really crushing it to make that 30% spread, because on
Yep.
paper you feel like you're winning, but you might just be spinning your wheels, getting back to break even.
Yeah, I went into this one guy. It was like last year or something, and he was a Bitcoin trader. Is a client of mine that came from. He lives in Miami. He's from Guatemala. That's all he does is buys houses and he buys Bitcoin. And he talks nothing about it, even as a Discord where all these people follow him on there. Like thousands of people follow this guy. So I met him, and he's like, "Well, meet me at my office." So I did. And when I walked into his office, like this guy had a wall of TVs, like computer monitors, and there's all these like charts and graphs and like these crazy weird like Bitcoin, crypto related graphs that I'd never seen before. And this guy like knew what they all meant. And like he was talking about bell curves and this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, I don't even know what to say. Like you're way out. Like he's like this
Yeah.
guy was way out there in like crypto expert land,
Yeah, I got a couple of things to say about that. One is I think it was Roger Federer. I recently heard a quote from him. He's like basically one of the goats, if not the goat in tennis. And he said, he has like 1,000 wins or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I have 1,000 wins. I'm the greatest ever, whatever. Not that he was being cocky, but he was like, all of the matches I played or the sets, I've only won like 54% of those over the course of my career. So, here's the like greatest of all time who's really only winning 54% of the time.
right?
That gets him to the greatest of all time. And it's the same with trading. Like this is I don't there's probably got to be some natural law associated with it, but the best traders in the world, that's their approximate win rate is about 50, 54, 55%. And I think, and like same thing with like poker and gambling, those are, blackjack, those are the greatest traders, gamblers, tennis players in the history of mankind, and their win rate is 54%. So, I mean, think about professional baseball, like the greatest hitters of all time, they strike out 7 times out of 10. So, if you're not like dedicated to trading and really quite talented, you're, and it depends on what your benchmark is. Like my benchmark is Bitcoin. So if I have 10 Bitcoin now, and then, in 4 years from now, after trading, let's say I have 10 Bitcoin right now worth $1 million or $1 million cash equivalent. But in 5 years, I only have 8 Bitcoin, but that 8 Bitcoin is worth $2 million nominally. Like I have more US dollars, but I have less Bitcoin.
Right.
Like my unit of account for me personally, being a Bitcoin maximalist, my unit of account and determining whether or not I'm improving financially or economically is I use Bitcoin as my denominating factor. I don't look at US dollars anymore. So, if you're trading Bitcoin, you're like, oh, wow, I have $2 million more now, but you have less Bitcoin, you're actually losing. Because
Yeah.
if you just held the 10 Bitcoin, it would have been, instead of 2 million, it would have been worth, whatever that is, 2.2 or 2.4. So,
Gotcha.
there's a lot of different ways to look at that. And then regarding the charts and stuff like that, Bitcoin does generally follow a 4-year cycle, which generally revolves around the halving, which I don't know how much detail we've gotten into, but the halving is every 4 years. Again, programmed money, absolutely scarce money, completely transparent that we can see the schedule and issuance and inflation rate forever. We know every 4 years that the issuance rate, which is another way to say the inflation rate of Bitcoin, gets cut in half. So again, this happened a few months ago. Previously to that, every single day there was 900 Bitcoin made by the miners. It was in April, around April, mid-April, something like that. That the halving event occurred. It occurs, I believe, every 210,000 blocks. So that 900 a day got cut in half to 450. And we can generally see that the cycles revolve around this event. So if you are trading, I don't recommend it, just like I don't recommend any of the products. I'll tell you what I do. I don't trade at all. I used to. But if you want to, you want to look at those halving events. And then there's generally midway through that cycle, is the top and you want to get out. And if you want to get back in, then you get back in when everyone's, shitting the bed and
Right.
it's going to zero. When everyone says it's going to zero, that's usually when you want to be adding. When everyone's saying it's going to $1 million, that's usually when you want to be selling. It's a
Yep.
market just like anything else. It's a lot more pure and volatile than other markets because of the lack of state intervention and centralized intervention. Now there are still, suspicious stuff that happens on these exchanges, but it's a global network, peer to peer. So that combats a lot of any manipulation that could happen.
Right. I'll say I want to say this. So like just like Detroit, 2009, 10, 11, all the way to really 2018, when like it was on fire and people were running out, we were running in. And people were saying, what is wrong with you? Like, why would you do that? Well, because things gotta fall apart. It's not going away. Bitcoin's not going away. Real estate's not going away. So if it crumbles down, there's always going to be people who buy the pieces. They're always going to buy the pebbles, the rocks, the stones, or whatever, and be a part as it rebuilds back up. So you can't be afraid when something starts to collapse, like the stock market has collapsed. Look where it is now. Look where the depression happened. And then what happened? The resurgence of the American people. Now we're talking about a recession. There probably will be a recession. There probably will be, I think, something more volatile than a recession, the way that things are looking right now. I think a global reset of currency. I mean, it's got to happen. Something does. Something has to give. And when that happens, there's always going to be the people that are in a position that were responsible, that are sitting on a pile of money or a pile of assets in some way. And that's when you buy. That's when you come in, and then you have to have the mentality to hold for, a couple of years or whatever, let things come back. But essentially, that's the method for any successful person investing, right? You can't be afraid.
Yeah. And I mean, look at Dan Gilbert. Say what you will about him, but he came in around that time. I don't know exactly,
Yeah.
but after 2011 or maybe around 2011 and dropped billions with a B of dollars in Detroit.
Oh yeah.
That's conviction.
Yeah.
Like
he even took the failed prison jail, whatever downtown was like. I'll tell you what, you guys have failed so bad. Give me the land and I'll build you another jail, because he saw the value in just taking that piece of real estate away from these fiscally irresponsible idiots, that just
he's converting them into like another development. It's like going to be apartments. I don't think it's a jail again.
But then you got other stuff in Detroit, like this Central train station. They did all this work on it and they threw this huge concert party.
Did you go to the party?
No, one of my offices is right across the street from there, but I didn't, because it was a nightmare. There's so many people down there, and I see it every day, so I don't really need to see the pretty lights and watch, Jelly Roll sing Bob Seger songs or whatever. So, but they put an irresponsible amount of money into that, right? They put so much money into that. And like, you look at that, like, well, what's the end game for this? Like, why would a company put that much money into a building to restore it or whatever? Like, this is not the type of investment that I condone as a real estate guy. Like, that's a whole different thing. But people always ask questions like that. Like, if I buy commercial buildings and I put all this money into them, like, won't I be able to scale and whatever? And it's like, come on, man. Like, let's stick to the fundamentals. Now you're talking about unicorns and rainbows and stuff and leprechauns. Like, let's talk about reality. Like, what is in demand? What do we have that fills that demand? Then for sure, like, if you're going to the plate to hit a baseball and there's a guy on the mound, like, you're pretty sure going to see a pitch that you hit the ball, right? You don't show up to an empty stadium hoping that a guy's going to show up and throw you one, and that's the thing about real estate. And that's the thing about crypto or investing in general. Like, if things fall apart, that's when you come in and buy. If, people are losing faith in it, or the market does something that makes a recession occur or whatever, like, that is your chance as an investor to come in and take advantage of the losses of others. I mean, Bitcoin is not going away. Like, what's the likelihood that Bitcoin goes away?
I mean, it's more likely that Bitcoin goes to infinity than it does zero. So,
right.
And again, this is conviction. Like, it's, Ford and Gilbert and these other people, they're not dropping billions of dollars into these things because they're like, oh yeah, well, maybe. Like, of course they're big players, they can make an impact on the market. But, you and I would never do what Ford did. But Ford's time horizon, like Bitcoiners, is not, within a couple of years, it's decades and decades. And, they have an iconic, company that people, for better or worse, they recognize it and they say this is the real deal. And this kind of, brings back that visceral Detroit pride feeling. And, I get it.
Right.
Not for me, not for you, but for me, like one reason or one way you can determine whether or not you're really starting to understand like something like Bitcoin or real estate and you feel conviction is, for me, I feel I'm excited when Bitcoin goes down because I can buy more Bitcoin.
Right. And it's coming back.
I know it's coming back.
Even when it went down to 18,000 recently and then it surged back up. What's it at now? 65 or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
Right.
But, this is my third cycle now. So I've seen it, third time's the charm, I guess. I don't know. But
every time every time it comes back stronger.
Yeah. First time I watched it go from about $200 to $300 to $19,000. Then it crashed back down to briefly to $3,500. It was stable around 5, 6, 7. Then it went from, COVID, there was the big dip on all the markets. COVID, it went back down to approximately 3,500. Then it went to 68,000. And then it went from 68,000 to about 15,000 briefly when FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried and all of those scam artists got basically exposed and dumped onto the market. And then from 15, it went to where we are. It was a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, it was 74,000, which was a new all-time high. And now it's just tracking, like you said, around 65,000. And this is the beginning of that 4-year halving cycle. So Bitcoiners, we can look at the charts. Again, I'm not a huge charter, but I like to look at long-term kind of, you could call it macro, but basically like big picture ideas and big picture charts. And we can see where we are in this cycle. So, if it goes to 100, great. If it goes to 150, great. If it goes to 500,000, great. I just know over time, being a nascent product with now the biggest money managers in the history of mankind promoting it, nation states just starting to buy it and mine it. It's growing at a more rapid rate as far as users are concerned. It's growing faster than the internet up to this point. And, it's just, there's MicroStrategy. That's a company, Michael Saylor's company, who has utilized the strategy, which people like myself and other people before him, but just not on such a massive scale, where he's issuing his own stock. And he's like, he should have one that closes tonight, basically. This is middle of June. He's buying another approximately $700 million worth of Bitcoin. That should settle within the next 24 hours. And this guy is issuing low interest loans against his company and against his stock issuance and buying Bitcoin with it.
Yeah, it says a lot about confidence.
Yeah, I mean, he's invested like Dan Gilbert. He's an absolute genius. I recommend everyone just Google Michael Saylor and listen to that guy talk.
Yeah.
He's bought literal billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. He is the definition of conviction. And it's really fascinating to listen to him talk and, hear what he has to say. But the reason I mention that is because now, since he started doing that, just this current cycle, there's a publicly listed company in Japan that's implemented the same strategy. So they're a much smaller company, but they are literally now buying millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin every month. And then there was another one.
Something, right? Should also tell you something.
Yeah, and then that one is, I mean, that one's, I think, like digital related. So, they're kind of techie, ahead of the curve. Yeah. But then there's a third one that recently got mentioned. I think they're called Simpler Scientific, something like that. And they're like a medical company, a publicly listed American medical company that is now also doing the same thing as Michael Saylor, which is issuing stock to buy more Bitcoin and using cash reserves to buy Bitcoin
Yeah.
and using their cash flow to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's basically the strategy I suggest for real estate investors. That's my specific strategy. So going back to what I do, 2020, I refied my properties. I didn't buy more properties with that. I bought Bitcoin with it. And now my debt service on that Bitcoin is much, much easier to manage than it was 4 years ago. And the Bitcoin has gone. I bought it, it hasn't gone crazy. I think I was like, when I executed that loan, it was maybe around 30 grand, but it doubled. My
Yeah.
real estate has not doubled.
Right.
And
Exactly.
if this cycle goes just as well as the previous cycle, then it's going to go like 10x based on that refi.
Yep. And you
Um,
got to be diverse in your investments. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, and you can't count your chickens before they hatch.
yeah, I mean, I have two baskets, real estate and Bitcoin. That's really it. And
Right.
real estate's really my profession. It's not like, an investment really for me. It's my day-to-day job.
Mhm.
And I think for people who aren't real estate investors or who aren't at the scale that you or I are at, if you have a consistent or reliable job and you're living below your means, it's the same thing. Take a little bit of that every single month and you tuck it under your bed, except your bed now is Bitcoin, or, maybe some of you are buying stock, whatever it may be. Obviously, my preference is Bitcoin, but it really brings back this ethos that we talked about with the Claibornes, or, just in general, where, hey, or the Dave Ramseys, live below your means and save money. That didn't work. If you were using US dollars, the American dream is fucking dead.
Agreed. Agreed.
If you use it to buy Bitcoin or even gold, but if you use it to buy Bitcoin, the American dream is alive and well, because you're able to save a little bit, whether it's 5% of your monthly paycheck or 10%, whatever it is, that little amount is going to grow exponentially over the course of 20 years. So if you're 30 years old right now, over the course of 20 years, you're not going to have an issue retiring or paying for whatever it is that you want to pay for, or that second home in the Bahamas, whatever it is. If you keep all of that money in US dollars, it is a mathematical fact that it will be worth less in the future. It is a mathematical fact that Bitcoin will be worth more. So jump off the sinking ship, get on the life raft, and escape the ill effects of fiat.
All right. Well, with that being said, Adam, I got to get onto a call. This guy, his agent, keeps on riddling me. But let me just say, Adam took a chance. He came to Detroit. He spent a lot of money. They deployed tons of money, millions of dollars to buy houses, to improve them and provide safe, affordable housing, and also to make money in appreciation, make money in passive income. And that experiment was a good one, and it's working. And he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to real estate. Adam is not trying to become a millionaire by talking to people about Bitcoin, but he's also available to assist people that are interested and guide you in the right direction. So if you're interested in talking to Adam more in depth about crypto and about how to do it, and maybe having someone advise you along the way, he is willing to have that conversation with you. And Adam, how do people reach you for that conversation again?
Yeah, greenriverhome.com. That's my website. You can book a consultation. You can reach out to me. Yeah, I do. Obviously, I charge money for my consultations, but like you said, I'm not trying to be a millionaire. A lot of this stuff, you and I chat because we enjoy it.
Yeah.
I love talking about Bitcoin. It's one of my favorite things in the world. It's so fascinating and interesting. So it's a lot of fun.
But you are a busy man, and knowledge is power, and it don't come free. So if you guys are interested in talking to Adam, I highly recommend him. He's a very honest guy. He has a high level of integrity, and he's very knowledgeable about this stuff. And I wanted to bring this alternative, investment strategy to people, just to say, like, don't fixate on one thing. You got to be able to diversify. You got to keep your eyes open. And I personally believe that Adam is 100% correct in how he feels about crypto, particularly Bitcoin, and where it's going, how to invest in it, how to get returns, how to lend money off of it, all that stuff. So we're going to leave this episode there. I'll probably have him on again, maybe a couple times. I feel like, these episodes are are borderline legendary. Let's just be honest. So you can reach me, David Rabior, 313-451-0448. Check me on my website, www.detroitbuyholdinvest.com. All the social medias. Adam, one more time, give them your info.
greenriverhome.com.
All right. Reach out to Adam Cook if you want to learn, if you want to invest in Bitcoin. We appreciate all of you guys joining us. Have a great day. Adam, I will see you. Talk to you soon. You have a wonderful day, my friend.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.